As the Tournament of Power continues, our heroes are faced with a difficult task in defending one another from oncoming danger as the Universe 9 warriors begin to make their move on Universe 7 as Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter number 34 reveals new information in connection to the beginning of the Tournament of Power, along with shocking eliminations that ultimately differ from its anime counterpart, so strap on in and hold on to your seatbelts because we are going to be discussing Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter number 34 next. If you are new to this channel and enjoy what you see, then don't forget to punch that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon to receive new and daily content on your mobile devices, desktops, and services that I provide, along with following me on these social media platforms to stay connected with me at all times. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now let's begin. With Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter number 34 on the horizon, we have some brand new information and scans revealed and showcasing the events that followed during the Tournament of Power battle, as the official English translation for Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter number 34 has not yet been revealed. We are going to be presenting the full English translation on this channel once it is released, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel to be in tune with all latest in translations and information for the upcoming manga chapter as we kick off Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter number 34 exactly where we left off, with our heroes having to scour and moving away from an attack from Vegeta as Vegeta begins to target Universe number 7, with Kuririn having to be the first person in sight. And what's remarkable about this manga chapter is early on in the beginning, unlike how we saw in the anime, Krillin actually is approached by Frost, and as quickly as he came, Frost manages to eliminate Krillin before Krillin, unlike the anime portrayal, was able to get any elimination on any other fighter in the Tournament of Power. So down goes Krillin from Universe number 7 with 0 eliminations, courtesy of Frost having to teleport behind Krillin and using Vegeta as a ploy and kicking Krillin outside of the ring. As the first person to take notice of this is Gohan, as right after Krillin's elimination, he notices that Beerus begins to chew him out and screaming at him as Champa begins to make fun of Beerus's fighters. But as quickly as Champa begins to make fun of Beerus for Krillin having to be eliminated, the first person having to be wrung out from Universe 6's corner is actually Dr. Rota. So for anybody out there who had any high hopes in seeing Dr. Rota's secret power in the manga, your hopes and dreams have sadly been crushed from here on in. However, as this happens, we also get to see how the other universes are beginning to laugh at Champa and Beerus for having their fighters be wrung out. But back on the tournament stage, what's most interesting is, surprisingly enough, Frost ends up being the MVP of this entire manga chapter, and bits of examples as to why is we see him fighting Ten Shinhan and of course Master Roshi by himself. Now Frost takes initiative in this manga chapter by further showcasing more of his ruthlessness as opposed to his anime counterpart, where he didn't really do as much as he did in the manga. But as Frost is beginning to fight Ten Shinhan and Muten Roshi, Gohan notices how Muten Roshi and Ten Shinhan are in trouble, and right before he dashes to save them, Universe 9's Bergamo, Lavenda, and Basil step in front of Gohan's way in preventing him in saving Roshi and Tien, and instead we see an all-out fight between Gohan and the Trio de Danger, which I truly enjoyed because we also get to see how Gohan is pit up against 3 of Universe 9's strongest warriors, that of course having to be the Trio de Danger, but we also get to see how they begin to take advantage of Gohan and using the numbers advantage against Gohan in this situation, as Lavenda manages to get behind Gohan and pushing him further into Bergamo. But we see how Gohan quickly bounces back, and as soon as Bergamo attempts to hit Gohan from behind, Gohan moves back and bending backwards in attempts to landing a devastating shot to Bergamo. But as quickly as Gohan managed to counteract Bergamo, Basil comes in to make the save, and it's from that point in that we get to see how the numbers advantage favor Universe 9 over Gohan as he gets knocked back. And then meanwhile, as Gohan is fighting the Trio de Danger, we see how Piccolo is fighting the rest of the Universe 9 warriors. Very different as opposed to what we saw in the anime counterpart, but here Piccolo also manages to fight off 3 other warriors, and as he attempts to do so, Muten Roshi and Tien are holding their own against Frost, as Tien moves away from Frost, creating enough time for him to formulate his Tri-Beam and having Roshi duck out of the way and firing a direct tri-beam to Frost, and at first, Frost seemed to be a bit puzzled, but he didn't seem to have any kind of concern in taking the blast head on, as moments later after the dust settles, we get to see how the smoke clears, garnering everybody's attention, including the people that are on the stand, such as Beerus, the Supreme Kai, Kuririn, and the Elder Kai, warriors such as Vegeta and Goku, and once the dust settles, we see how Krillin believes that Tien did the job, but in fact the job was not handled by Tien, as once the dust settles, Frost is just seen standing there, dusting himself off and pretty much telling Tien, "Is that all you've got?" as he begins to charge in Tien's direction, punching him in the gut so hard to where Tien is also sent flying from the ring. So Frost at this very point in the manga chapter manages to ring out 2 of Universe 7's warriors, that being Tien and of course Krillin, as we see Tien land on the stands, and Frost seems to be very satisfied by the fact that he managed to ring out 2 of Universe 7's fighters, as initiated in manga chapter number 33 by Frieza, as Frost later turns his attentions to Muten Roshi. And you can see the expression on Beerus' face. He seems to be a tad bit alarmed, but he doesn't seem to be lashing out. He's very quiet, and then we see how Frost looks up, he looks behind him, and he notices how Frieza is standing right behind him. So everyone at this point has picked up on the idea that Frieza is indeed working with Frost, or at least that's the assumption everyone makes at first when they see Frieza talk to Frost moments after Tien was wrung out by Frost, and it looks like there has been some sort of a relationship formed as Krillin begins to cry out to Goku in letting him know about Frieza and Frost's relationship. And at this point, similar to Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 33, Goku is still engaging against the Pride Troopers, as we see Goku surrounded by 3 of them until Krillin points out that Master Roshi is in trouble. And indeed, Master Roshi is in trouble because as soon as Goku turns around, Frost seems to be flexing on Roshi and pretty much telling him, "You're next." And Roshi at first also doesn't seem to be alarmed, as he seems to smile, welcoming Frost's challenge. As soon as Frost, however, also makes his move on Master Roshi, moments before striking him, the first person to get in the way and making the save is of course Son Goku, catching Frost's punch, and as soon as Frost jumps back, he looks at Goku acknowledging him, and we see how Frost isn't really pleased on seeing Goku make the save and saving Master Roshi, but then we see how once more Frieza stands behind Frost in acknowledging Goku's presence, and then moments later, as cowardly as they come off, they quickly bounce away, and as they're flying away, Frieza proceeds to further talk to Frost about more or less using his full power in this situation, as it would ultimately help him get stronger. And then moments later, we get to see how Piccolo is wrapped up in a chokehold, having to fight off some of the Universe 9 warriors, just as Gohan is continuously fighting against the Trio de Danger. And as Gohan looks behind him and noticing that Piccolo's in trouble, he begins to blow away the Trio de Danger in his attempts on trying to save Piccolo, in which of course moments later he comes in, knocking one of the warriors away from Piccolo, as now it is Gohan and Piccolo left to fight off against the remaining members of Universe 9, and in which as a result, the person that Gohan managed to kick off of Piccolo in ringing him out was in fact the same person that Frieza eliminated in the anime portrayal of the Tournament of Power, or at least it would be presumed that way, as we see this warrior having to be wrung out until one of his teammates manages to save him and bringing him back in the ring. And now it's virtually every single person from Universe 9 having to step up and fighting against Gohan and Piccolo by themselves. So the numbers game are definitely in Universe 9's favor, until however, we see an unexpected savior arrive as Frost manages to whoosh on by Gohan and Piccolo in his attempts in stopping the Universe 9 warriors. As stated by Frieza, the harder Frost begins to fight, the stronger he will get, and it's really amazing to me how Frost, instead of attacking Gohan and Piccolo, zooms right by them in his attempts on fighting off the Universe 9 warriors, as once Frost charges in, he charges up this blast and hitting some of the warriors so hard that it causes a few eliminations. Bergamo, Basil, and Lavender remain intact as one of the warriors gets knocked down, in which lead to one of the Universe 9 warriors having to teleport behind Frost in his attempts on stopping him, but Frost actually, as he gets hit, manages to uniquely counter this attack by grabbing the warrior by the hand and swinging him around and around until eventually he throws him into the same character that Gohan just knocked off of Piccolo, and eliminating both of them as opposed to Frieza in the anime portrayal. And here we get to see how Frost is beginning to run roughshod and carrying the most eliminations in the Tournament of Power, as one by one Frost begins to drop everybody off from Universe 9, gaining the attention of Vegeta, Roshi, and Goku, as they also seem to acknowledge Frost's tenacity in the tournament, which I have to give credit to Frost in this manga chapter, because in this manga chapter we see how Frost literally goes toe-to-toe with essentially everybody else from Universe 9 with the exception of Bergamo, Basil, and Lavender, which includes all of the other remaining warriors, in which Frost uses in stopping each and every single one of them, even blowing back one of the fighters as we get to see one of the fish monsters completely decimated, battle damaged, and he's standing by the edge of the ring. And the first people that take notice of Frost's tenacity are of course the trio The Danger, as they observe Frost and cowering away once Frost turns around, and you can see the look of concern, anger, and confusion on their faces. As you can also pay attention to detail in seeing how tired Frost is, we see how once again Frieza arrives, acknowledging Frost's accomplishments and clapping for him as they begin to exchange in a bit of dialogue. But Frieza also manages to talk to Frost as he walks behind him, and later out of the blue, as opposed to the anime counterpart, reaching on in and grabbing Frost by the throat, in which initially I thought Frieza was going to chokeslam Frost, as we get to see how Frieza pushes Frost by the edge and later kicking him in the face, assumingly having to tell Frost, never trust anybody. And from there, we get to see how Frost drops out of the ring, with Beerus and Krillin everyone having to be concerned as they look on over to Champa's side. Champa also seems to be a tad bit confused as Frost lands on the bench, having to sit there, as everyone seems to be confused as to why Frieza did what he did, and you can only assume that Frieza looks on up and acknowledging that Frost is indeed an amateur, as Frost begins to look on down on Frieza in such anger and disgust in being betrayed by the one person he thought he can trust. However, never trust anyone that looks like Frieza. And from there we also get to see something very unique happen, as Frost did not attempt to attack Frieza in this manga chapter, unlike how we saw in the anime. So the difference in comparison there is in the manga, Frost keeps his composure. In the anime, Frost attacks Frieza and later getting erased. As we head on back to the tournament stage, as Piccolo and Gohan begin to once again encounter the trio The Danger, as they seem to be a tad bit confused on how to approach the situation, because they look like they're performing the trio The Danger triangle that they used in the anime against Gohan and Piccolo, but somehow Gohan and Piccolo manage to outmaneuver them, and then from there Piccolo gets Bergamo's attention and attempts to lure Bergamo away from Gohan as Gohan fights off Beso and Lavenda by himself. And at first it looks like Gohan is having a tad bit of trouble as he literally gets pushed by the edge, and just when you thought that Gohan was going to be down and out of nowhere, we get to see how two beams appear out of nowhere and striking both Beso and Lavenda out of the ring as Gohan looks behind him, and we see none other than Frieza having to stand there, saving Gohan from the trio The Danger. Now Frieza makes a few remarks to Gohan and pretty much talking to him in what assumingly is the same piece of dialogue that we saw in the anime, talking about trust, talking about how he could potentially eventually ultimately betray Gohan, as we get to see more and more of the Universe 9 warriors emerge by the bench, and Seadra doesn't seem to be happy at all as one of the warriors points on down as she tells Seadra look down, and as Seadra looks down, Piccolo has Bergamo by the edge of the ring and Bergamo doesn't know what to do, and Seadra's telling Bergamo to fight back as Piccolo looks on down and giving Bergamo an ultimatum to jump, as we see a piece of dialogue be exchanged between Bergamo and Piccolo, as I was really hoping that Bergamo were to do more in this manga chapter, but in fact he didn't. So I guess you could say the trio The Danger did a tad bit more in the anime than how they did in the manga, especially with the idea that the trio The Danger had done more in the Zen exhibition match in the anime more than either the manga or the Tournament of Power itself, as out of nowhere Frieza emerges and kicking Bergamo out of the ring. So of course that pretty much seals the deal for Universe 9 as all of its members have been erased, and then Frieza turns around and making a snarky remark to Piccolo and pretty much telling him, hey, you're too slow, stop giving ultimatums, something along those lines, as Piccolo seems to be confused and a bit surprised that Frieza had done that, as Bergamo teleports by the spectator seats, and then everyone begins to acknowledge the fact that now Universe 9 has become the first universe in the Tournament of Power to have all of its warriors eliminated, and from there the Daishinkan does what the Daishinkan does best in notifying everybody that Universe 9 was going to be the first universe to be erased. And at that given point, everybody begins to stop what they're doing, which includes Kaba, Botamo, and many of the other fighters, including the Namekians. Everyone looks up as they bear witness to the ultimate powers of the Omni King and having to squish and erase Universe 9 from existence. Now, as I said in the spoiler video, unlike how we saw in the anime, we get to see how Universe 9's Angel Mojito doesn't laugh, he doesn't smile, he doesn't seem to be happy that his god and Kaioshin have been erased, which of course to his credit, he had been enduring a lot of crap from both of them. He seems to be a tad bit more sad than how he was smiling in the anime portrayal, and at that point, similar to the anime, everyone seems to be shocked, everyone seems to have stopped what they're doing, as the Daishinkan begins to later explain to everybody that of course time is dwindling, as we get to see how the pillar begins to descend, and even Beerus begins to ask Whis about the acknowledgement of Universe 9's erasure, as Whis indeed confirms to Beerus that Universe 9 entirely has been erased. And with Beerus having to see this before his very eyes, he looks down on everyone, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Gohan, Muten Roshi, the androids. Everyone seems to look up after Beerus had made his claim and yelling at everybody to make sure they win the tournament as the manga chapter comes to a close, in which I will say I am very disappointed in what the Trio the Danger had done, because why is it that we saw more from them in the Zen exhibition match, which happened in the anime, as opposed to what we saw from them in the manga and in the Tournament of Power portrayal in the anime aspect? So to me, I felt as if these characters could have done a tad bit more to preserve their overall relevancy in this manga chapter, but it was pretty cool to see how they fought Gohan and Piccolo instead of Goku and Vegeta, and seeing the execution of Gohan and Piccolo a bit more than Goku and Vegeta, as by the end, it wasn't Gohan or Piccolo that managed to get the victory, but instead, it was Frost that managed to ring out 7 warriors, with Frieza having to ring out the remaining 3 and causing Universe 9's erasure. So Frieza and Frost, of course, were the MVPs of this manga chapter, although Gohan in his attempts did try to fend off the Trio the Danger at some point by himself. Keep in mind, he was not in his ultimate form, so for anybody out there who's assuming that Gohan was fighting them in his ultimate form, he in fact was not. But I also love the execution of Frost in this manga chapter, because Frost in this manga chapter came off more aggressive and more ruthless than how he did in his anime counterpart when he was fighting against Muten Roshi and everybody else. So props to Toriyama for giving Frost more relevancy. However, I'm also very disappointed in the fact that we did not get to see a Frost versus Frieza battle. Even though Frieza would ultimately destroy Frost, it would have been pretty cool to see how Frost, for once, would have been the first person to betray Frieza instead of Frieza having to be the first person to betray Frost. It would have been a tad bit different, even though Frieza would have been expecting it, because of course they are parallel counterparts. It would have been pretty nice to see Frost attempt to attack Frieza, ultimately just for him to get foddered in the end. And I really enjoy how, if you guys keep in mind, Super Saiyan Blue or any god tier type of transformation has not been used so far in these manga chapters. I can grow to appreciate, because in the anime portrayal, everybody was using Super Saiyan Blue, golden forms, all types of crazy things in the beginning, and it watered down the usage of those transformations as the tournament continued. So I'm very happy how so far everybody seems to fight in their base forms and their first powered up transformation states, so that's essentially a good thing. But in the end, I would like to know what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on Frost having to fodder 7 of the other members from Universe number 9? What are your thoughts on Frieza coming in clutch and saving Gohan and Piccolo and ringing out the Trio the Danger? What are your thoughts on the Trio the Danger, and what are your overall thoughts on this manga chapter, pretty much focusing more on the utilization of Frost and Frieza more so than anybody else, alongside Piccolo and Gohan's teamwork tactics, which by the end will fare useful as we continue with the Dragon Ball Super manga chapter. So let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you guys are new to this channel and love anime and Dragon Ball, then make sure you guys go ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. That way you guys can be notified whenever a brand new video is posted. Tune back in for more. If you guys enjoyed, slap a like down below. We are going to be presenting the English translations from Viz Media on this channel when it drops in the next couple of days, so make sure you guys come back to get further information as to what's going to be happening in this manga chapter in terms of dialogue. Thank you all so much once again. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Cue my outro, bitch.